And the abrupt audio ending as we intro into us there.
Evan, I didn't let this actually play long enough last time. I didn't know there was a countdown to that video.
I actually meant to ask you that because I was like, man, I could have sworn there was like a countdown.
No, I stopped it early because I thought it was just going on forever with that Labs Advisor Live thing. So
I saw the neon lights and the music, man. It felt like we were going into a club or something like that.
Friday.
It is Friday, and that means it's time for some Labs Advisors Live. Once again, joined by all of my favorite people. It is, I think, the 21st, right?
It is the 21st.
21st. Wonderful.
Yeah.
My dog just had a birthday.
Wow. Happy
Hey.
That's really why we're here.
And that is
How old is your dog?
2 years old.
So 14, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Boom. Well, so,
Teenager.
in case you don't know who we are, this is Labs Advisors Live. Every week we take a deep dive into various technology topics as it relates to growing businesses and taking on new challenges and just becoming better and smarter every day. With me, as always, is my good buddy, Joe McHugh.
How's it going?
Absolutely.
Are you talking about me or are you talking about the Joe McHugh that you snuck in behind you over?
That's old Joe. That's
No, this is
COVID Joe right there.
Yeah, this is the ghost of Joe McHugh, and he occasionally does appear. And then, of course, his good friend, the ghost of Chad Andrus, will always sometimes make an appearance.
Who is speaking to us from?
Who is
here.
actually speaking to us? And of course, we have our official KW representative.
Abs and labs.
Abs and labs. I love getting to say that now, Abby. It's so great.
It is.
Yeah, now,
very weird.
I read somewhere where you officially now have that as your email at KWRI.
I have an alias, absandlabs@kw.com. So
That's awesome.
just
So if
you know, because I don't have enough emails, I might as well add another one and
Yeah.
manage more. So
what we all heard is if you have any questions, issues, or thoughts about today's episodes or general complaints, please email absandlabs@kw.com. It will get addressed very quickly.
Also, any
On
command
Monday.
any command feature requests can go there.
That's where all of them should go, actually.
oh, perfect.
That's the start of your support trade. Now, on to our special guest for today. I'm very excited to believe, and I always get this wrong. I always mess up people's job titles, but area director for the Maryland, D.C. region. Nod or shake your head if I got that right.
Currently, yeah, I've had a few different. I've been promoted a few times in the last 2 years, so the titles have been changing pretty quickly. But currently, at least what I go by is area director, and then I'm KWU faculty and a MAPS coach as well.
The list goes on. A very accomplished man. John Morse, thank you so much for coming on and joining us today. We really do appreciate you. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Oh, fantastic. Today's topic, I'm actually kind of excited about it because we're going to be taking a look at a couple of different things. But John, I'll let you kind of explain kind of what are the goals today and what we're going to be going over.
Well, I think one of the things I got really, because prior to becoming the area director, I was an RTT, and I was, when Command launched, I was one of the ones that was hosting those Command Unleashed road shows and tech road shows and going all over the place. Yeah. So I think one of the things early on, for me at least, the way that I approach Command has shifted, because right when it first came out, there was a lot of stuff with our tools that people just didn't know how to use the tools at all, right? So there was a lot of how-to things. Here's how you put a contact in. Here's how you update your marketing profile. Here's how you do all this stuff. What none of that training did, though, was really tell me how to use it to sell more real estate. And so what I've really been focused at least on over the last, say, year I don't do as many Command trainings as I used to, but the ones that I do, the focus for the trainings have been a lot more on application than how to, right? And so I think that's where we're really going to kind of go and explore today is what are some things that people are doing, or how do you utilize the tool in your business? So what are some outside of the box things that agents are using this stuff for to really to help them with their business?
Well, and I love that.
Joe, you're on mute.
Oh, no, I'm not.
No.
What?
Well, you were talking and nobody was hearing you.
I was hearing them.
Okay, I would.
There might be an issue with some connection there.
Okay. So what I love about that is right. You can have as many of the how-tos, and let's be real. Those are important. But if the agent doesn't understand why they should be using this tool and what it can get for them, they're never going to go and find that how-to, or when they'll do the how-to and then they're not going to know what to do with that information. So I think that's really, really important. And I love that you do that.
Yeah. So it's more along the lines of, again, an application and strategy rather than just, hey, here's this tool. Here's how you use it. Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of the why. I treat it like my kids, right? My kids always ask, I tell them to do something and they ask, they ask why. And so then you explain to them why they should do it. And then it's like, oh, okay. But if you just tell somebody, hey, you should do this, and you don't give them the why, then it's kind of like, I don't know.
You could teach somebody how to use a hammer, and all they're going to do is go around hitting nails. But if you teach them how to build a house, then they have a reason to use that hammer.
Exactly.
So,
now I know it. Now I've become dangerous with it.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do with the technologies. Yeah, I want our agents to become dangerous with it, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, Evan asked me for a couple examples. So we'll go into a couple strategy things, and then we'll open it up for questions from people in Facebook land.
Absolutely.
But
John, I didn't ask you this earlier, and I don't know if you
go ahead.
But you did you have anything that you would share on screen or anything like that? I should have asked this before we went live, but we're going to do that now.
Yeah, I'll share a couple of slides from some different classes that I've taught. There was a really good class, probably the best one that we put together is Marty and Mike. And so for those of you that don't know, because you live under a rock, I'm talking about Marty Miller and Zach Younger and Mike Hillary. About a year ago, I think, maybe not even a year ago, we put together a class on how to actually win listing business with Command, right? Mm-hmm. Because again, we have these tools. How do you use those tools to actually do something with it, right? So we did a class that was really more on strategy. So I don't know if we actually even logged into Command. We just talked about, hey, here's some things that you can do to really start building an online farm, right? So I'll share some of the stuff from that because I think it's super valid. And then I got a couple stories as far as that goes too. I think one of my favorite stories on agents that I've talked to that are using Command at a really high level is in my region, because again, I'm area director for Maryland, DC. We have a really great agent who is a mega, runs a really good, amazing team, and he's a MAPS agent coach as well. His name's Jose Rivas. And he's out, if you want to throw a great, if you need a great referral partner around the North Baltimore area, Jose is in White Marsh, Maryland. Jose basically early on we heard that, hey, Command doesn't work for teams. Jose didn't listen to any of that stuff. He basically just jumped in and started using it, and since Command's been launched, that's the only technology he's been using for his team. They're called the Lion Home Group. Now what's cool about Jose, again, there's two really good stories for him. He really knew that there was going to be an amazing opportunity through using Facebook ads, because getting off Zillow and being able to get your own leads or source your own leads is a good thing, right? And so he started incorporating that really, really early on when that was made available in Command. He said it took a while, and that's one of the things I always like to tell people too, because everybody's like, hey, you know what? I ran this ad, I spent $50. I got 20 leads or 30 leads or whatever it is. Well, that was great. But these leads all stink because none of them want to do anything. I can't get a hold of any of them. And the first thing I ask those people is, all right, how many leads do you have total from Facebook? 25. Okay. How long ago did you run that ad? 2 weeks. Right. Here's what we know about Facebook ads, and I don't know how much has been covered or not been covered on this show before because I don't watch I got to admit, I don't watch every single episode.
That's it. Boot them. Take them off the show.
Right?
That's good.
However, what we know is we know some things, right? Conversion rates on online leads, you got anywhere on the high end 3% to a typical conversion rate for an online lead, somewhere between 1% and 3%, right?
Yeah.
So if you got 25 leads, you got about a quarter of a transaction.
I want to pause there for 1 second because I think it's really interesting. 1 to 3, that's 2% average, right? Where have we seen that number before? I said this on the show before. 1 to 50 is what the MREA says for not met is your conversion rate, right? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. We shouldn't be surprised by that number.
Yeah, and this is not a command Facebook thing. This is industry wide.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if we basically look at that, and I always like to use worst case scenarios because I don't want to set expectations too high. So when I always talk to people, I always go with the low end. I say 1%, right? So if we go low end at 1%, you got 25 leads, buddy. Evan, you need 75 more leads to get a transaction. So you don't have enough.
Yeah.
We need to spend a little bit more money, right?
Yeah.
In addition to that, we also know that the incubation, and again, this is not command, this is everything. The incubation period for an online lead is anywhere from 6 to 18 months. So just using the average, what you get today is not going to be ready to pull the trigger until a year from now, right? Now, going back to Jose's story, he started doing this and he said, hey, John, my stuff didn't really start clicking until about 9 months. But he said about after 9 months to a year, he was, and I haven't talked to him in a while, so I don't know if those numbers are still correlating. But the last time I had talked to him and we were having a conversation about this, he was spending $30 a week, $30 a week, so about $120 a month, right? He spent $30 a week, and he was able to directly track or trace 2 closings each month from the Facebook leads that he was getting through command, right? So think about that ROI. We're talking about $120 a month to get 2 $10,000 commissions. Yeah, pretty good.
The ROI is insane on this too, and oftentimes I think what you're highlighting is a story that we hear all the time, right? I wanted to try out Facebook leads. I wanted to try this out because I was told by somebody that's a great way to get leads, and so I'm going to dip my toes in with a very small investment, and they don't usually typically get a whole lot of results in there. But when you hear folks that are getting those great ROI, a lot of things they have in common is they've been doing this for a while. They've been running consistent ads. They have a budget that they can quote off the top of their head and tell you, what it is and what their ROI is going to be and what their follow-up plan is.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is I always tell people, if you want results from this, two things. You need to have a budget that's going to allow you to do this consistently for a year. And you're going to have to basically follow up with the leads for a year once they come in. So getting things like smart plans set up, super, super important, because if I get a lead and I don't ever do anything with it because the person doesn't call me back in the first 2 weeks. I mean, think about it. Evan, I know you just got your license, and Joe, you've been in the business for a while. So I'll ask you, Joe, you ever make that phone call to a lead that you hadn't followed up with in 6 months? And they say, hey, Joe, hey, thanks for calling. I just closed on a house last week.
Yep.
And then you get pissed.
Yep.
But you should be pissed at yourself because you're the one that didn't follow up with that person.
Yep.
Right? Happens all the time. And that's like, I talk to a lot of agents, and I don't care if you're a new agent or an experienced agent. Really, the number one problem that a lot of agents have is that long-term follow-up, because everybody's a hero at connecting with the people that they got a lead on from a week ago, right? I'm calling that person every day, 2 times a day or 3 times a day for 10 days. It's the person that you don't get a hold of, and then you have to follow up with that person long-term. A lot of our really good agents aren't very good at following up with those people either. They just close a lot of transactions because they lead generate in their sleep, and the volume of transactions they have is huge. Now think about the ROI for a team that gets a lot of leads, that's burning through a lot of those ones. How much more business could they churn if they were able to follow up a little bit more effectively with some of those leads that goes through, right? Yeah. So Jose did a really good job with that, and the result for him was, hey, I got $120 of ad spend, and I'm making $20,000 in GCI off of it every month.
And the ROI speaks for itself on this too.
Right.
Absolutely.
The other thing about Jose that I really, really love, and we'll go into a little bit more here too, is he really has a predominantly Spanish-speaking market. So you guys will love this, right?
All right.
The guy went in. I don't know if he did it himself or he had his admin. I'm thinking he probably had his admin do it because they do everything. Let's face it. I mean, let's be honest, right?
Yep.
Operations, baby.
I see Abby shaking her head, right? And so what he did is he went in and he knew how important smart plans were, and he wanted to make sure that he was getting a good ROI on those leads that he was buying, because who wants to pay money and then not close anything off of it, right? So his team went in and they actually created smart plans that were in Spanish.
Yeah, I love that.
Like as far as I know, he was the first one to do it, because I mean, he had emails and text messages all in Spanish.
I have a couple agents I coach on this because they run ads on Facebook in Spanish. And we talked a lot about the importance of tags, right, in your database, and how if you're going to market to a subgroup in a specific way, you need a tag for that, right? And so this agent was then segmenting their database. Am I sending them the Spanish marketing or am I sending them the English marketing? And so that's I love that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah. And I think that what's really important about that, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, Joe, because that was one of the things that I was going to talk about, is I think sometimes two things. One, tags are really, really important, right? Because it helps us segment our database. And I'll explain why that's really important, because it's not just, hey, is this a Spanish speaker or is this not a Spanish speaker? And then neighborhoods, I think, are really important too, because we have the neighborhoods in Command, and that's theoretically a tag in its own. If we want to build a farm in a particular location, we need to have those people on appropriate neighborhoods, right?
Yeah.
And a good example of that's this, and this is one that I use all the time. So sometimes some of you guys out there might have heard me say this before, but I like it so it works, so you're stuck with it, right? So to give you an example of why I think tags are really important, and I see Chad said that, hey.
He's triggered. He's triggered.
Chad's triggered now.
Chad Landress is in the house.
Yep. So here's why I think tags are important. Is my wife asks me to sign up for a Target account because they're giving away some sort of coupon and she wants the coupon.
Because it's Target.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all you need to say.
So I sign up for the Target account so I can get the coupon. And what proceeds to happen is Target now emails me every day their newsletter of the day. So when I first opened that when I first started getting those, I think the first 2 or 3 times I got that email, I opened it up, and then I scrolled down and I realized that nothing that was in this ad interested me at all. So by day 4, I stopped opening those and just immediately started to delete them. Right?
Or unsubscribe. Yeah.
Right. I didn't unsubscribe because I just figured that my wife's going to want other coupons that might pop up from here to there. So I just delete them unless she tells me not to.
So that's the sign of a great husband. This man lets his email get hit with Target because he knows she might need those coupons.
Yeah, she might need the coupons, right?
Yeah.
So basically, I think the difference is I'll get emails from other companies though, like say, for example, like Amazon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And rather than some just general like Amazon email that it has all these different things that might be available there, Amazon's thing says, hey, John, you looked at these shoes yesterday and you didn't buy them. Would you like to check them out again? Mm-hmm. Hey, John, you bought these shoes yesterday. Think you might like this hat too. All right. Hey, John, you probably don't know what this is, but based off of your preferences and what we know about you, we think you might like this. And I'm thinking to myself, I have zero idea what that even is, but I have to have it, and I have to have it now. And I can only press one button, and it'll get delivered to me today for free, right? And that's where I'm going with the tags part of it. Is I think that and I heard this early on with Command. Hey, E-Edge, you used to put people on a 36 touch and forget it. Now I got to go and I got to add all these different smart plans together or whatever like that. And it's like you want to do that because ultimately. The smart plan I put Evan on should be different from the smart plan I put Joe on, should be different from the smart plan that I put Abby on, right? And by having those segment tags, I'm going to know what Evan likes, I'm going to know what Joe likes, and I'm going to know what Abby likes. And when I create a marketing piece, or I have a house in a certain neighborhood, or I have a certain style house or price point on a house, or there's something in a neighborhood that's available or a school district that somebody's interested in, now I can create unique one-to-one marketing experiences for each individual. So now Evan thinks to himself, man, John really knows me because every time that he sends me something, it's exactly what I want. or what I'm interested in, or I might not have even known I was interested in that, but John reads my mind because he sends me stuff I like. So now rather than that automatic target delete email, everything that I send to Evan and Joe and Abby, they open it up, right? And so tags is the first key to that, because now rather than the one size fits all follow-up plan, by using tags, I can Lego block different smart plans to really create a unique experience for each person that's in my database.
You're speaking my love language right now, John. I'm telling you.
Like tags are like
tags is everything to me.
So underrated. I think.
But there's so many different because command lets you make as many as you want and type in whatever you want. I mean, the use cases almost never end with what you can come up with. I've seen a lot of really interesting ones.
We could spend the next hour talking about tags alone, honestly. It's
well, then we'd have to bring Kimber on then, because she's the queen of tags.
She was invited. She chose not to come on today.
And I actually will speak to
me.
kind of the point that John's making, that personalization effect is tags are a big key critical to this. And one of the things I tell people all the time that I see, the best groups and organizations that I've seen not only have like real estate related tags, but they also put like where they know them from, what social groups like PTA, things of that nature. And it allows them to do a few things. One, have that really hyper personal conversation, and then do it in bulk and do it all very quickly and easily, where something that might take, a couple of weeks to prepare for, they can get it done in, 5-10 minutes if they have the email done already. And they're able to hit their target audience with exactly the information, because when you're sending them stuff like what John's saying, you send people stuff that's generic and not really tailored to them. We're really just training people to know that what we send to them does not have value.
Yeah, well, I mean, and it could be, think, and again, the title or this or what I suggested we talk about here is thinking outside of the box. It doesn't have to be real estate related smart plans and touches that we put people on. I like to surf. I live in California. And what does it look like if everybody that I know that surfs, I put a surf tag on? And then I send surf reports to come out to my database that's surfing, right? But it has my branding on there. Now all these people that are surfers out there are going to go see today's surf reports or this week's surf reports. And they're also at the bottom of it going to see that it's from me and that I'm in real estate. And it's just kind of continuing that repetition. And Jason Abrams talks about it a lot, staying in emotional proximity with our people, right? Because, if you haven't seen me do this presentation, and I have a slide for that, so I'll just share it real quick. I think this is really important.
Yeah, I love this.
Let's see, share screen. Here we go. I don't need to read the tips here. I want this one. All right, so here's a slide for emotional proximity, right? I'll make it a little bit bigger so everybody can see it, right? So one of the things that Jason talks a little bit about is, hey, when's the best time for you to really get in contact with a lead about real estate? And if the dots at the top represent when they buy or sell and the ones at the bottom represent the day afterwards, when do you think the best is? And as Jason says, most people are going to say, hey, it's somewhere right before the top, before they get to the red dot, because now I can go out there and I can get this person as a client and make money. And Jason's argument is actually the best time to talk to somebody is here, right? Mm-hmm. Because when you get to the top, everybody wants to talk to that person. Buying that lead is really expensive, and there's a lot of competition.
Yeah.
Day after that person buys the house or sells the house, nobody's talking to them, not even their own realtor.
Yeah.
Like, what's that NAR stat? NAR says something to the effect that, excuse me, I think 87% of buyers out there say that they would use the same real estate agent that they used before. However, something like 11% do.
Yeah.
And when asked why, they would say it's because that person doesn't ever talk to them again.
Right? The other thing I think is interesting about this is, we're looking at this, and I think the most important part of this is that 3 to 7 years, because this wave itself, and now I'm getting all sciencey, right? Whatever. It's not consistent, right?
No.
It could be 3 years, it could be 7 years, it could be 14 years, it could be a year, it could be 6 months. Like, this wave is all over the place. So if you're not constantly in conversation, you don't know if you're going to be in with them at the right point.
Yeah. Here's the thing: is everybody always says, "Man, I wish I would just," kind of going back to that example, Joe. I wish I would have known that this person was going to take 6 months to do something or 5 months to do something, because then I could have called them at the right time.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to be in the right place at the right time. The way that you're in the right place at the right time is consistently being in front of people all the time, right? And that's what the smart plans do, and that's what curated smart plans do, is now over this 3 to 7 year period that it takes to get here again.
Yep.
If I'm reaching out to that person 36 times a year, every single year until they're ready to roll,
it's also,
you got to remember, this is just another transaction.
Yeah.
There's also referrals in between here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's also why you can't drop, the one thing you can't drop is calling them at least quarterly, right? Because that's your check-in to make sure that their timeline, that hasn't changed drastically on you. If you're not doing that piece, then I don't want to say the rest doesn't matter, but like if we talk about the 20% versus the 80%, that's your 20% effort right there, right? That's what you got to do to get those results.
Yeah, and I think really the key here is that when you reach them right here and you spend 3 to 7 years building this up, talking to these people 36 times a year, every year until that happens, when they get ready, when they get to this spot, you own it. They're not going to call anybody else. Because statistically, we know two things, right? Is that the average consumer, doesn't matter what product it is, can only remember the name of 2 brands. So if I consistently reach out to this person, I got a 50-50 chance of getting their business. In addition to that, we also know from NAR stats that 70% of sellers out there only interview one agent. So if I could be the predominant person that consumer remembers when they're ready to buy, sell, or refer real estate, I got about a 70% chance to get their business. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's not bad. I also like, if we go back to those quarterly calls and staying in touch too, there was something, this is kind of in that vein. I was speaking with an agent out here in Nashville. I think it was an agent out here in Nashville. I could be wrong. One of the things they do is they are committed to making sure that Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it might be that person may have, they have it in that contact record. And every time they go and they make their DTD2 calls or quarterly calls, however you guys choose to do it, they always make sure to pull up any social media they have and either reference something in that call or just have a quick look and really actually look. Because they had an example of, they were calling someone and it was going to be a sales call because that person had been thinking about selling, and they checked Facebook and that person's mother had just passed the day before. And so that call transitioned over into a care call immediately without it, having that trying to do a real estate, conversation or something like that. They went right to really into the emotional proximity of actually being in a relationship with that person. Right. And of course, that person's still in the database. They're still a great client of theirs. And that's just one of the examples of how they can use tools to make sure that they have tools and a process that they're being more human, right? We're using that technology to remain more of a human being with our people.
Yeah.
And that person is definitely going to remember that care call type of language versus, hey, did you see that, so-and-so market or listings are going up in the next week? I know you guys are looking, like, they're going to remember that they reached out to them in that emotional type of way versus a sales way. They could probably call them 3 times with a sales script versus 1 time with a true human conversation, if like you called it, Evan.
Yeah. And how many other real estate agents do you think called them to give them calls and try to be there for them?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You don't feel like you're on a dialer then. You feel like they're actually reaching out on purpose.
This reminds me of when we had Mike Hyde on, because we talked a lot about earning the right to get their business. And you earn the right to get their business not by asking for the business and being in real estate all the time, but having the relationship. And of course, you ask for the business, right? Because if you don't, they may never think about you. And yet we start with building the relationship.
Absolutely. And so, which kind of is a good segue into, I'm going to share some of the slides that Mike and Marty and I had created. Because I think this goes really along with what we've been talking about, right? So if I go in, I truncated the presentation, so it's not a lot of slides. I just put a couple of the important ones that we had come up with. And we already talked about this already, right? 70% said one agent is what they interviewed before selecting the one to sell their home, right?
Yep.
So the goal is to be the first agent to the table. And, Mike is really good with math stuff, and he had brought this stat in, right? He found that in 2019, they said the average attention span of a person's 8 seconds, right?
I wonder what it is now that TikTok's become mainstream.
Yeah, TikTok's mainstream, so now it's lower, right? And I think we lose more of that every single year. But I think the point is here, if I'm arrogant and I'm maybe an old school agent, and nothing against old school agents, but I think sometimes we think, hey, you know what? This is the way I've always done it. And this is, I got my clients on lock. They're going to use me. They're never going to use anybody but me. I don't need to do a lot of this stuff because I'm good, right? They forget us pretty quick if we don't. And even if they don't forget us, we have to do business where our people want to do business, not where we want them to do business at. And I'll give you a good example of why we don't necessarily have the moat around people that we think that we do. So I don't sell houses anymore too much because I'm in leadership, and so I'm not really in production as much as I used to be. However, I still do transactions every once in a while for close friends and family. So my nephew called me up and asked if I would help him buy him and his wife their first house, right? So like most real estate agents, the first question I ask him is, have you guys been pre-approved? Because if you haven't, I can connect you with somebody to get pre-approved, because we can't do anything else until we know what we're working with here. And he goes, hey, Uncle John, we're good there. My wife's brother is a lender. And I was like, hey, fantastic. That's awesome. Now, here's the thing. This is right around when Keller Mortgage was coming out. And I wasn't going to say anything, but then I thought to myself, I better tell my nephew about Keller Mortgage, because the last thing I want to have happen is a year from now or 2 years from now, one of his friends buys a house from a Keller Williams agent, uses Keller Mortgage, and then doesn't have to pay points, doesn't have to pay fees, and gets a good rate, right?
Yep.
So I said, hey, listen, Steven, I said, I don't want to cause any family drama. And I said, I don't care who you use as a lender, because I get no benefit if you use Keller Mortgage. I said, but I got to tell you about this program, because if I don't, I'll feel bad knowing that I could have saved you 10 grand. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I said, now I've given you the facts, you do with it what you want. And I was like, would you like me to get you more information, or are you good to go with your wife's brother? And he goes, man, I don't want to, I just recently married. I don't want to cause any drama with my wife either. But he goes, saving 10 grand as a new homeowner and a young person sounds really, really
it's
good.
It's worth the drama.
Right. And so he said,
bring it on.
Yep. He said, let me talk to her first, and then I'll let you know. So next time I talked to him, he said, I said, so what do you want me to do with this mortgage thing? And did you talk to your wife? And he said, yeah. And I said, so what did she think? And she was like, hell yeah, she wants more information. So here she's willing to not use her own brother, who's in the business, because there was an opportunity to provide more value to her through this program. Now, fortunately, we didn't cause any family drama, because they were both teachers and they were looking to get a California teaching kind of grant for their mortgage, and it wasn't something Keller Mortgage offered at the time. So they still ended up going through their brother. But the point is, had Keller Mortgage offered that, they would have not used her brother.
Yeah.
Right. And so going back to this and how I kind of went off on this tangent, our people don't have the loyalty that we think that they do. And if somebody is providing more value or an easier experience, or a combination of it's more value and it's an easier experience for me, if we don't meet them to where they want to do business at, we're going to lose some of that business.
Yeah.
Now, a couple things, Marty and Mike and I, some things that we talked about on creating this online farm, right? Choose a neighborhood, right? Either it's one that you own or in close proximity to, because if I want to sell beach houses, but I live an hour away from the beach, it's going to be hard for me to consistently get out to the beach, even though that's what I want to do, right? So choose the right neighborhood for you. You don't have to live in it, but find one that's in close proximity. Ensure the price point is going to be worth your efforts, because if it's a low price point, and I'm going to put a lot of work in, and the return's not going to be as high as I want it to be, then maybe I need to find a different one, right? Big thing is you want to examine turnover rate, and this doesn't necessarily have anything to do with command, but we have to know these numbers and we have to know these things in order to make command work for us, right?
Yep.
So turnover rate, if you don't know, is how many homes there are in the neighborhood divided by the how many homes have sold over the last 12 months. You want a turnover rate of somewhere between 8 to 10%, right? Then we know there's going to be enough homes there for me to actually build this farm. So that's choosing the right farm. Now, here's some ways, both in command and out of command, that we can do that, right? We run ads on listings in the neighborhood. And you could do that traditionally through postcards, and you can create those postcards right in command. You can run the ads on Facebook to get those online leads. All ways that you can do that. You can create flyers and walk the neighborhood, right? So if you're old school and you like door knocking, you can use command to door knock too, right? Because think about this. A lot of times people will sit there and say, hey, John, I'm a door knocker. I don't need this technology stuff. So when you go to knock on somebody's door, you don't bring anything to hand to them. Yeah. No, I give them a flyer. Well, hey, you can create a flyer in command really easy.
That's really where are they putting that information once they make a connection?
Right. Well, now, that's the other thing too, Evan, right? What do you do with that person's information after you knock on the door? Well, I write a note, and then I was like, okay, well, then how do you actually send something to that person later? Well, I go back to the office and I put them into my CRM. Not if you're using our mobile version of command right now. Now I'm walking away from that door. I'm putting the contact's information into command mobile, and I have them in my CRM before I knock on the next door. And then I could theoretically start that person on a smart plan right away. Right? Yeah. So super, super valuable. Creating social posts so we get people to respond to us and send them to a landing page or a Google form to where we can capture their information. Another way to generate leads. It's not necessarily a paid ad, right? Giveaways. People love giveaways. Run some giveaways with some ads on there. Now you can get both their lead, and you're going to get, especially if you're giving away a good product. I know that an RTT, Hallie Armstrong, a while back, I think she gave away, and I think Chad actually might have done that too, gave away like a Yeti cooler, right? I'm giving you my real information because I want that damn Yeti cooler, right? Yeah. And so you're going to get leads from that.
Chad does a lot of door knocking in ranches. He just walks miles.
Yeah.
Miles.
He rides a horse.
He has a scooter in between farms. So hosting virtual open houses to capture leads. The goal is to get as many names, emails, and phone numbers as you possibly can so that you can reach out to those people later, right? And then retarget with command. So we're going to, tag the leads. We're going to assign them neighborhoods. We're going to, make sure that we're targeting some of the people we already have in the database, especially because if I go and I door knock and I basically have the information for these people and I have them tied to a neighborhood, I can have them tied to, Abby is in my Magnolia Estates seller bucket because she lives there already. Yep. So I get something a house that I've sold recently or a house that I've listed recently. I'm sending everything that's going on in Magnolia to Abby, so now she knows I'm the guy there, right? And a couple things happen. Now maybe she thinks, hey, what's my house worth? Or maybe I want to sell. Now I'll call John. Or maybe she has no intention of ever moving because she loves her house. But now she knows that her buddy Joe wants to move into that neighborhood. And now she gives me a call up saying, hey, what's going on with this house? Because I have a friend that might want to move into the neighborhood. Now that just helps me source some leads.
And I love
command, right?
I love the retargeting piece that you have on this slide because I think one of the things we forget about is Facebook. Well, Facebook is tell you all day long, this is the leads. You're generating leads. You're generating leads. You're using this as a top of mind piece, right? So that the next time you go door knocking, you've been in front of them a few times already, right? You don't have to rely. And I love that.
And I've sent them stuff that they've got. So now I have something to talk to them about.
Yeah. Retargeting with call to actions is a big part of the playbook that many people miss out on. I'd tell you, there's about 15 different Gary Vaynerchuk videos on that exact topic where he will go into excruciating detail on how to do that.
Yeah. So, and then you have the ability in Command to run Facebook ads to retarget to people that are already in your database too. You just need to have tags and you need to have the neighborhood set up, which is again why tags and neighborhoods are so important, right? Being able to send the postcards out, super valuable as well too.
An important thing to say to that too, guys, is that it's not just, you don't have to have their Facebook profile in that user record to ensure that you can retarget them. As long as you have their email address, Facebook will use that too, right, to help you retarget your people.
Yeah. Now, a couple of other things we threw in here too is when you're door knocking, think about this. What does it look like if I go and knock on Joe's door and I pulled a list out from Command of all the buyers that I had tagged for Magnolia Estates and show him, say, hey, Joe, or maybe not even door knock. If I go on a listing appointment, I got 30 buyers that are interested in Magnolia right now. Here they all are.
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful, right?
Yeah.
You know what else I think is interesting about this? Because you have that list, right? And so this takes a little bit of a conversation with the seller. Any agent can generate that list. The problem is, what did we say? They're 12 to 18 months from buying. If you don't already have that list, you're not doing anything with these people yet. You're not actually helping your seller. So by having that list, you already have the people for their home even before they were ready to sell. And I think that's invaluable. And if you can sell that to a seller, like you're ahead of the game.
Absolutely, right? Having copies of past postcards available, being able to show the metrics that we have in Command on how successful leads have been and how much they've generated. Now, here's a big tip too, right? Because we talk about the difference between using a landing page versus Facebook's lead gen form. And one of the things that we know is using Facebook's lead gen form is going to get us more leads. And a question everybody always asks me is, why the heck would I not use that then if I'm going to get more leads? Why would I use a landing page, right? And I always tell everybody, maybe not in this market because it's a hot market, but in a traditional market, I would always run 2 ads. One is using the lead gen form that's going to get me a lot of leads because that's what I want, right? Landing pages, what a lot of people don't know is the landing pages will get you very few leads, but because it gets you very few leads, Facebook shows it on the feeds of consumers more often.
Yep.
And now what I can do with that, running the landing page is my target, I'll run that for my consumers. Because now I could rather than sitting there saying, hey, 2,000 people saw your ad. Now I can take back to them an ad and say, hey, 10,000 people saw your ad.
Yeah.
Right? Now it validates what I'm doing in terms of the marketing for them because it's getting out to more people and more eyeballs are on it. And then, especially if we go back or when we go back to a traditional market and I need to ask for price adjustments, 30,000 people have seen your house, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Nobody's buying it yet. We need to reduce the price. Right?
Yeah.
So super valuable to be able to do some of the validation stuff pieces that we have inside of Command, I think are really, really important.
Yeah.
So now we talked about the importance of tags. We talked about the importance of neighborhoods. I think one of the things as we set these ads up, we need to get really, really purposeful about smart plans too. And I'll give you an example. So I'm going to go into my Command account here real fast. And so if we go into smart plans, so now we've done the stuff to get the leads, right? Now we got to follow up with. Now I have 2 main Facebook follow-up plans that I like to use. And basically one is generic and one's for my farm. So the generic one's going to go on a lot of ads that I might run where I don't want to get too specific about stuff. But my farm's my farm, man. I want to own that. Yeah. And so I took the same basically smart plan to respond to Facebook leads, and then I just basically customized it to create more of an experience for that neighborhood, right? So I live in an area called Ripon West.
Come on, John, give everyone your address. Let's go.
So I have the no-call Facebook follow-up plan / Ripon West. So now if I go in here, what you'll see is, and I did this because again, when I run an ad inside of my farm, I know that whether or not I don't know much about the lead until I get them on the phone. What I do know is they're interested in that neighborhood because they clicked and left me information on a house that's in that neighborhood, right? So I'm going to put them on this smart plan, and I'm going to automate it, obviously. So when the lead comes in, they're going to get tagged as a Facebook lead. They're going to get tagged as a Rip and West buyer, and then they're going to get automatically put onto my Rip and West Facebook follow-up plan, right? And so now, just dumb things like, hey, I saw you were checking out homes in Ripon West. This is very specific. Not the town of Ripon, not, say, San Francisco, but the specific area. Awesome, right? Then they're going to get another, email the next day, right? Hey, here's my website. Here's some information, blah, blah, blah. Hey, here's some homes in Ripon West I think you might like. So now there's a link to this website, or to my website. Now, here's one thing that maybe some people don't know. Let me get this link.
There it is.
So basically what I did here is I just did a generic search on my website for homes in Ripon West. And this is an evergreen link, meaning that the content will change, but the website address stays the same, right?
One of my favorite things about the agent sites too. You configure that search however you want. Just copy and paste the link. It takes them the exact thing that you had just looked at.
Right. So now this is going to give me information about Ripon West. I can hit explore the neighborhood. I can see any homes that are available here, which there really is nothing available here, right? We got one house at 1.2. But the point of the matter is now they get redirected to my website. They're on here. They see information specifically about the neighborhood that they're interested in. They can see all the available homes. They can see some of the surrounding areas. They can get information on this house. If they click Explore Neighborhood, then that's going to take them to a link to give them information about the Ripon West neighborhood. So now I can get some info about that as well too. And now I'm specifically creating that Amazon experience that I was telling you guys about. It's not Target. It's not me telling them everything that's available in Ripon. Hey, here's what's going on in Ripon West. Here's what's available. Here's what the stats are, right? Here's the properties for sale. Here's what the locals say about the area. Transit commute times. Here's what the school district looks like. Here's the Yelp reviews for stuff that's going on in the neighborhood. Here's some other nearby areas. So now as that consumer gets this, and I'm going to go back into the smart plan, right? As that consumer gets this, now they're slowly starting to see, hey, John mentioned Ripon West here. John sent me this email and gave me information about Ripon West. And then he asks me about stuff at Ripon West as well too. So here is an SMS. Now I use Bitly links for my SMS. And the reason I use Bitly links is this is going to really take them to kind of the same website. However, we know that a lot of times these links are really long links, and I apologize because being on this call, and you can see this here, this is really long. If I was to put that into a text, that'd piss a lot of people off, right? So I use a shortener like Bitly to make the link shorter. In addition to that, it's free. In addition to that, I can put a unique name to that. So like you can see here, it's Bitly or bit.ly / Ripon West. So now if I'm out at Starbucks and somebody wants information about homes in Ripon West, I can say, hey, just go to bit.ly / Ripon West. So now I have an easy to remember link that's going to give them all the information on my website about a particular area. And Bitly gives me tracking information so I know when people are accessing it, what websites they were on prior to coming to that website. So now I can find good sources on places where I might want to advertise too. Because if I know somebody was on Facebook prior to coming to this, now I know that they saw my link on Facebook. Now I know they saw my link from email. So I can then adjust how I'm going to market to those people, right? And that's really what I do with my smart plan here. And I'll just stop the share here real fast. Stop screen. There we go.
Oh,
is ultimately now I'm going out there and saying, hey, here's links to the school districts. Here's links to the service providers. Here, if you want water and garbage, here's the information on how to do that. So as we're going through this smart plan and as we're following up with this person for 6 to 18 months, I'm constantly bombing them with info about Rip and West because it's unique and specific to them and the stuff that they want. Now, again, I might not do a smart plan for every neighborhood that I sell in, especially if I only sell 1 or 2 in a particular area. But areas where I got a good chunk of business at, I'm going to create a unique smart plan on those. So now I'm providing that one-to-one, hey, I want to know about Rip and West. John's giving me information about Rip and West. He supplied me with information not only about the homes, but the schools, the sports, the local amenities, the local government, who I use for cable, who I use for water, who I use for garbage, utilities, all that kind of stuff. And then now when they're ready to go, they're not going to call anybody else, right?
No, at that point, yeah, for sure.
Now, I know we got 7 minutes here. One of the last things I want to really show to, and I'll go back to share the screen again, is give me a second here. Outside of smart plans, this is an area where I think a lot of people miss. Is we use tags for contacts. How many out there in Facebook land use tags for opportunities, right? I think there's a big miss on opportunity tags, and here's why, right? Is if I go into all discussions, or actually, let me just go back into opportunities. So if I go to create an opportunity, I have the ability to tag stuff here. Now I can tag things by neighborhood. I want to know how many houses I sold in a particular area. That way, maybe I want to see how I'm doing, or maybe how did I do in my farm last year? Is this farm not very valid for me, right?
Oh, we got to.
Where did the lead come from? Right? This was this opportunity came as a Facebook lead. So I want to create a Facebook opportunity tag. So now at the end of the year or the quarter or however often I want to check that, I can go and say, okay, how many transactions did I actually close from Facebook leads? Because everybody talks about price per lead. Who cares about price per lead? It's how much does it cost for client acquisition, right? How much am I actually paying for a client? Because, hey, I'm willing to pay $1,000 for a lead if it's going to help me close, if it's going to close one transaction. That's well worth it.
Yep.
Who cares if I get leads at $2 a lead if I don't close any of them, right? So now if I tag every opportunity I have based on where the lead source came from, at the end of the year, I can see how many opportunities did I get from that lead source, how many did I actually close from that lead source, and then I can calculate how much I spent on that lead source, how much the leads were, and how much the client acquisition was. And if that client acquisition is really good, I'm going to play green light with that. If it was really bad, I'm going to either figure out a way to make it better, or I'm going to stop it, right? So opportunity tags are something I don't think a lot of people utilize, and you're making a big mistake there because now it's going to help you track where the business is coming from and what your market penetration looks like.
Well, you want to tag your relationships, and you also want to organize and tag your transactions as well. I've seen some transaction coordinators do some really cool things with the opportunity tags. One of them was they had tagged, they had a list of all the vendors that they use for all the transactions for 2 reasons. One, they wanted, like how they with sources, they want to track how much business they were sending to each vendor. And also it helped because they had such a wide variety of preferred vendors in their programs. It let them know at a moment's glance, a transaction coordinator looks at a file without having to dig through and find out who the lender is, who that is, or go find the cover sheet. It's just, they hit the opportunity and they know that Larry's the lender and this person's title company, this is the inspector, this is the roofer, and this person's got this on there, and they already know who all to call at that point. It's one of the things that I've seen people use that for.
I just hope there is somebody out there who branded themselves Larry the Lender. Like, I'm stuck on that.
Is that what your grimace face was? Oh, when I was talking, I was looking at Joe thinking, I must be hitting a bad note here because Joe's not looking very happy at all.
I was my resting face is horrible. So just ignore that. I did want real quick break. We are about 5 minutes out. So if anybody has any questions, we usually do this earlier. But John just had so much value who's bringing that we blew right past that. Anybody have any questions, please put them in chat. We'd love to hear your questions and answer as many of them as we can before we end. So definitely,
unless you're one of the hundreds of bots that have found our live stream on YouTube.
yeah, that has been fun.
Hey, I'll answer the box questions.
Yeah.
too,
These
right?
comments are great. We got VOA FYI. We got VOH FYI. We got a ton of these that have just been showing up in the YouTube.
Any
comments.
Larry lenders? Is there a
No.
Larry lender in there?
Is there a Larry Lender out there in YouTube?
We
Yeah, if
do
you're
have
looking for
a-
a lender, you contact my buddy Larry.
We
Right?
have in my market center, we have a Bill the Banker.
Bill the Banker, I love that.
Build a banker. I like
That
that.
was his email.
That is good.
That's really funny. Bill the banker and Larry the lender. That's fantastic.
Just
Well,
brother.
let's
One of
do
the
this.
things-
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So, okay, I was gonna say let's do this
Go ahead, Evan.
near the end. Can you not hear me anymore?
John's having issues.
John's
No,
having-
we
yeah,
hear you.
John's connection is going in and out sometimes. So as we were kind of approaching the end, waiting on questions to come in, I wanted to go around the room real quick, folks that are here, for like Abby and Joe. Kind of what was probably the biggest aha or takeaway that you got from our conversation thus far today? I'm gonna start with Abby.
Thank
she's
you.
She's wearing new glasses.
Thank you, because I'm managing the YouTube stream right now, and it's quite fun.
So what Joe is saying, he didn't listen to anything.
No, I listened to all of it.
I think just bringing back like the importance of the emotional proximity stuff. Like we know, like you hear it, but like just to keep it front of mind I think is really important. And I have not seen or thought about that, and I can't even tell you how long. And so, even though I don't sell real estate, I'm focusing on building my referral business because I'm licensed. And so being purposeful in the same way as if I was selling to get referrals into the hands of agents in my market center or people wherever they're moving to. So that has actually been a success of mine so far in the last 6 months because I've paid more attention to having conversations and being top of mind around people that I'm with, to the point where I'm hanging out with them and they say, hey, we need to talk. And I'm like, oh geez, what the heck does that mean? And they're like, I want to sell my condo. I'm like, perfect. And then it just falls into place because of the purposeful conversation. So
Yeah, we didn't get time to get into the referral applet, but that was one of the things that I always talk a lot about too with Command as far as outside the box. I tell agents every day for at least 10 minutes, you should go into the referral applet, look at areas where you want to do business in. So you should have people in every state, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just find who's doing business in those locations, reach out, develop a referral relationship with them, and then create a referral 36 touch. Maybe not 36, because I don't even know if you need to do that with real estate agents, but at least monthly or bi-monthly. Now I'm sending stuff out to people on the location where I'm located
Mm-hmm.
and how we're doing for our clients here. And now when Joe is in Connecticut and he knows somebody that's moving out this way, he knows I send him stuff about my location every 2 weeks. He thinks of me first.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I love that too, because the other thing is so many of the agents that I talk to have lived somewhere else at some point in their life for an extended period, and they're always asking me like, well, all my sphere is over here, right? And I live here. How do I do that? Build that, and this I think would be my ultimately point. What I was going to say is we need to communicate. From what I took from you today was communicate to people how they want to be communicated with, right? So if I'm in Connecticut and my sphere's in California, I'm not sending them my local events like that. They wouldn't care about that. And yet if I build a smart plan specifically to my sphere in California that talks to them about how I can help them and how I can be their resource, even though I'm not there, I'm communicating to them in a way that makes sense. And I'm generating business that I really don't have to do much in order to get a paycheck for.
Well,
So,
think about
you
that.
know,
And that happens all the time. Well, you know what, Joe? I knew that you were in real estate.
Yeah.
But I didn't think you can help me, so I didn't call you.
Yeah.
Where if you're constantly communicating with me that, hey, let me be your resource in California for real estate, even though I'm not going to do the transaction, I have a really good network and connection of great agents everywhere. Now I'm getting communicated with that on a regular basis. Now I know Joe. Hey, I can go to Joe rather than just pick up the phone and dial somebody I don't know.
Absolutely. And what a great segue that you just handed to me on a silver platter, by the way, John, a second ago, with the referral network, is because next week's episode is in fact on using the referral network and growing a referral based business with Casey Rumpel. So this time
Ooh.
again next week on Friday the 28th. And with all of that being said, we have reached time. The only question that we had that wasn't from the bots
Oh,
is, of course, Chad wanted to know what the one thing that you would focus on those with learning command. And
I
think
feel like Chad might be doing like an office book club if that's the.
So, what's the one thing you would focus on with those learning command for the first time? Is that what the question is?
Sure.
Like
Looks like
newbies
it.
command?
I guess.
We'll have Chad come back next
Chad's
week and
gonna
clarify.
start using command, so he needs to know what he
He
should do
needs to
first.
start.
Well,
Is
one
there
thing
a
I would
land
do-
command?
Just to answer his question really quick, the one thing I would focus in on right now with new people is just getting everybody into the database, getting them tagged appropriately, and making sure that everybody's on neighborhoods. Because again, we can't create that custom curated experience unless we do those things.
Yeah.
Apparently, I called it right. They are having a book club, is what I'm taking from this. So, yeah.
He's got to get his script ready for Monday's call. With that being said, John, thank you so much for coming in again today. We really appreciate you having it. We had a blast with you. Of course, Joe and Abby, thank you as always for joining me. We are a little bit past time, so we are going to call it a day, and we will see you guys next week on the next episode of Labs Advisors Live. Y'all take care now.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.